All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Today is Saturday, February 25th, 2023. And this meeting is pretty important because we want to go through our listing presentation, right? So we want to be able to know how we talk to the sellers, right? And actually get the listing so we can list it on MLS and be on the listing side and not just the buyer side, right? When we're starting out, buyer side is great. We want to get those leads and get the process. But once you have closed few deals, the process, you want to start getting comfortable. If you're a brand new agent, never sold the property, it might be hard for you to buy or list the property because the seller probably want to know if you know what you're doing and everything like that. So always, if you're starting out as a renter, you're going to go from renting to buying, from buying to being a listing agent. And that's the key, and that's where the success is for real estate. So this presentation is pretty important. And if you guys have any questions along the way, just unmute yourself or put your question in the chat box, and I will definitely try to answer it right away. And we briefly, only a few moments, just to go over the interest rates, affordability, and we'll go with the listing presentation. Okay. So for our mortgage rates, we saw Wednesday down similar to 6.8, and they went up another 8 basis points. So it's 6.88 for a 30-year fix for conventional. And this is according to Mortgage News Daily. And for FHA, you're looking at 6.35, right? And it hasn't changed since Wednesday. They are still on the high end. Hopefully, they start coming down, but we will keep tracking it every Wednesday and Saturdays, see how they go from here. Okay. For affordability, this is one of the examples that one of the our agents asked, so I want to use that. Their client was making $125,000 in annual income. They were getting quoted for 6.75 interest rate. This is going to be a 30-year mortgage, and they have savings, or they want to use their down payment of for $75,000 for their property. And because they were already prepared, all the minimum payments that they had on their credit cards, they already paid it. No payment due. There's no monthly payment they're doing on monthly obligations. So they are on good track. So they had no debt. They were looking in Queens, and the property that they saw had property tax around $6,000. A little bit less than that, but around $6,000. And the home insurance, we assumed it was around $1,500 on average. And the DTI, their debt to income ratio, we said if it's a conventional loan, will go up to 49%. Based on this, they qualify to purchase a house up to $723,000. Okay. And based on that, they are interested to know how much their monthly payment is going to be, which is $5,100. Okay. If their property taxes increase, this number will increase. If the home insurance increases, their total payment will increase, but the principal and the interest will not. Okay. So this is an example. Like I said, it was a that we used yesterday. Up to $125,000, $75,000 down payment, $6,000 in taxes, and that's what you're looking at. Obviously, if they have more obligations, if these numbers change, this number change as well. Okay. Yeah, Mohammed, you had a question? Sure. I love this question. Yeah, this happened a lot during COVID time when the interest rates were around 4%, right? So to answer your question is that when they're about to go under contract, that's the reason we call the loan officer and we tell them, or we ask them, hey, we have a pre-approval to purchase a property, for this client for $723,000, but now the interest rates are much higher or lower, whatever the case is. What do they qualify for now? That's the reason we check it. That's another reason that we say the pre-approval. If the pre-approval letter is older than 6 months, we usually want to get a new pre-approval letter. There's some listing agents that want to see it, the pre-approval letter, within last 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. That is just because of this, what you're asking. The interest rates change. If the interest rates goes higher, they will qualify for less. So let's say the same scenario here, everything else stays the same, but the interest rates during COVID, let's say it was 4%. Same person, nothing else changed. The interest rate did change, and instead of seven, it went up to 900,000. $200,000 difference. So it's a huge difference when it comes to interest rates. So it's best when you're doing it and you are filling out the offer sheet and you see an offer letter that's more than 5 months, 6 months old. It's a good idea to get in touch with the loan officer or have your client get in touch with the loan officer and get it updated pre-approval letter with current rates. You know, the only time the bank or the lender will be committed to that interest rate when the actual contract is signed and they have locked in the interest rate. Once we had that situation too, we have locked in interest rates for 5.8 and we're going to close maybe next week or so, and the interest rates are going above 7, the person will still get that locked in price, right? The locked in interest rate. So pre-approval, just got to make sure they're within 30 to 60 days. Get in touch with the loan officer. Does that answer your question, Mohammed? Mohammed? All right, perfect. All right, sounds good. Yeah, so huge difference. Even if it goes from like 6.75 to 5.75, it dropped on one, and now from it went up to close to 800,000. So interest rate makes a huge difference when it comes to this. And we had this, especially when we're making that transition from COVID. The interest rate really low, and people thought that they really can afford $600,000 property. But when they go under contract, the deal was a dead deal because nobody actually got in touch with the loan officer. They submitted the offer, and then end of the day, they couldn't qualify. And the bank simply said, hey, we can't give the loan because the person doesn't have enough money, or they don't qualify because the interest rates went up, affordability went low. So we got to keep your eye on that. So that's a good question, Mohammed. All right, guys. Next, this is for new build properties. This is article from yesterday. It did spike up 7% in January. So these are new property that's being built, uh, and they are going on the higher end, and they are in high demand. Anytime you see a brand new property, those are the property that people are willing to put in the premium, pay the maximum price because they know that they don't have to touch that property for some time now because it's a brand new building. So those properties have their own clientele and they are selling pretty fast. Okay. Next we have is a lot of clients ask for foreclosure sir upper. This is a brand new property that just came on, I believe last 24 hours. It's in Lebanon. It's a single family, has 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, very large lot size. So if you have your investors, you want to send them this property, and see if they show any interest to it, right? Anytime you see anything like this close to $400,000 looking for single family, there's a good chance that the investor can flip it and make at least $50 to $80,000, depending on the condition and their renovations and everything like that. But this is definitely one of those where anybody that you think that is an investor, send them this property right away today, please. Okay. Any questions before we move on to our main topic of listing presentation? Tracy, can you hear me? I don't know what's going on with the audio. You guys having any issues with the audio, guys? Yeah, just few agents. I'm not sure. So it's Alicia now and Tracy. Sorry guys, I'm not too sure how to resolve it, but if nobody can hear me, then it got to be issue from my end. But if few of you guys can hear me, I'm not too sure if it's your settings or. But yeah, yeah, you guys can try that. Well, for Alicia, it was just too low, and for Tracy, she said she can't hear me. Uh, But you can try that. We're just gonna be short time, so I'm gonna move on, guys. I'm recording this now. Okay, so at least that did work. So maybe Tracy's doing the same. Yeah, thanks, Julian. You gotta click on the speaker. All right, all right. So like we said, we want all our agent to be a listing agent, right? If you are a realtor, you should be selling properties, right? You should be listing it on MLS. But let's say you're the seller now. You're not going to give a listing to a agent that don't know the process, that don't know actually how to sell the property or get the maximum amount of money that the person is looking for. The seller will first ask, certain different questions, right? But we want to give them this presentation, and end of that, see if they have any questions. Okay. So the listing agents is the key to success in real estate. Simple as that. Because when you're a listing agent, you're in full control, right? Meaning you're basically listing on MLS. They're just like how you are doing it. The property goes on Zillow, and then a buyer's agent comes in. They're showing them negotiating. Obviously, you're negotiating, but you're in control because you're the one who's connected with the seller, and you guys are picking the best offer for them, right? And all the way until the end, you're representing the seller, right? Even when you go on as a dual agency, your first priority is your seller, right? Because you signed the contract with the seller from day one. So let's say you have a seller now and there's a property that they give you an address for, and you want to schedule a meeting with them. And how are we going to prepare for that meeting, right? So if they give you address 123 Main Street, you want to do your research about that property. You want to know about the details for the property without even going inside, right? You can Google Maps it, see the condition from outside. You can do the neighborhood search, and see what's going on, how the neighborhood is actually, right? So that's number one, doing the research. And we're going to go in details how we do the research. Second is that you want to dress up and you want to arrive about 15 minutes earlier for your appointment. Let's say you scheduled it for 12, get there at 11:45, be in your car, be prepared, be mentally prepared, and then you want to go knock on the door, and have your conversation. Another thing you want to take is your LJ Realty team folders. These folders that we have has LJ Realty team on it, LJ Mortgage. It has the steps for the buyer side, but you want to take those with you, right? You want to take your business cards with you, take a notebook and a pen so you can take down notes when you're actually talking to them. It's very unprofessional when you're talking to them and they're giving you all this. There's no way you're going to store all that information in your head. It's just not possible. There's going to be some things that you're going to miss out. And he's going to say, hey, or she's going to tell you, I already told you this. So you don't even want that, right? So you want to have your notebook and a pen handy, right? That is preparing for the meeting. Guys, if you have any questions, this is important. You can stop me anytime. So this is at the meeting. You scheduled it for 12. You're gonna go knock on the door. You're gonna greet the seller and thank them for allowing you to come in and give your business card, right? Once you're in there, take off your shoes. That's number one. You should take off your shoes to respect the property. If they tell you, hey, it's perfectly fine, you don't have to take it off, then fine. But first, initial option should be, hey, let me take off my shoes. That's how I would do in my house. Let me do it in his house as well, right? Then you're gonna view the property just like how you're doing the showings, right? So this is the first time you're going to his or her property. So you want to view everything, just like room by room. You want to start off, when they open the door, just start paying attention from top to bottom, right to left, right? See what's going on in that particular room. And then move on to the next one, move on to the kitchen, move into the dining room, the living room. And then, if it's two floors, go to the second floor, obviously the basement, you want to go to the basement. So you want to, while you're going there, you're taking down notes. Hey, this needs a little fixing. Let me jot that. You don't have to start telling them, hey, you need this to be fixed right away. No, just take down, hey, in this bedroom number two, there's a leakage. In the kitchen, I saw there's something, there's some stains on the on one of the walls, right? Small things, just writing down small notes for yourself, right? But instead of the negatives, when you're doing the first initial walkthrough, just point out the good features. Hey, this looks good. Hey, this looks good. This looks good. Hey, this looks in great condition. Point out the good things. Ask them which things they want to include and not include, and they'll start pointing out, hey, if you give me a good deal, or a good price, I will, include these appliances, or I will not include these appliances. Hey, this chandelier that I have for 5-10 years, I want to take it with me to the new place. So whatever they're telling you, take down the notes, right? Once you have done that, you want to sit down on the kitchen table or the dining table, right? So this way you have the table, you have your forms and everything, and you want to, either if you have this presentation printed out, you can do that, or if you have it in your iPad, you can share that as well. So I will share this presentation, generic information, so you guys can make adjustments and do your presentation. So this is when you're meeting the owner, right? So before you even start with your presentation, how they're going to benefit from you, you're going to ask them their story. Hey, Mr. Seller, why are you selling the property? Are you looking to move for family reasons, for work related? Are you trying to upsize, downsize? Do you have any hardship? So this way you're actually getting to know them. These are important questions. So this way you know exactly why they're selling, right? Also ask them how long have they been living there. So that's a good icebreaker as well. When you say, hey, I've been living there, 20 some years, and right away should be like, hey, you had a lot of memories in this property. So be on their side. Yeah, it's going to be hard for you to move, but we're going to try to get you the maximum price so you can move on with your life, right? So in this, you're trying to get to know the seller. Any questions so far, guys? So we have prepared for the meeting. We are at the meeting. We're asking the seller's story, right? We have viewed the property. We're sitting down on the table. You're asking them what's going on with their story. Okay. Okay. So next is why you want to list with me, right? Or why would the seller want to give you the listing here? They have so many options. Doesn't matter which area you in, that client or that seller has so many options when it comes to realtors, right? We know that. So how do we stick out, right? So you already asked them all the right questions with their asking about their story and everything. Now it's your turn to say, hey, how could I add value to you, right? So on our goals, this is the seller and yours. So as a realtor, you want to tell them, hey, we want to find the right buyer. We just need one buyer for this property. There might be 50 people viewing the property. We probably get 20 different offers, but we just need one right buyer, right? That's for you. And because you bought this property X amount of years ago, it could be 20 years, it could be 2 years, whatever that time is, we're going to try to get your maximum amount, right? So your maximum amount of equity that's built in. Equity is simply the profit that they're going to be making after all the expenses, which we're going to go over. But just know that, use the word equity. Hey, we want to try to maximize your equity. So this way, when you sell the house, you move on, you have enough cash to do your next transaction. And we're going to make this a smooth transaction from start to finish. Once you give me the listing, there's going to be no hiccups from your end. If there's anything that comes up, I will be just handling it. Even when it comes to negotiation, I'll be doing it. Anything from the buyer's agent side, the buyer side, you will not have any headaches. I'm going to make this transaction very smooth for you. Okay. And that's what they care about. They care about the maximum amount. That's the number one priority. Hey, can you get me the maximum amount of cash? All right. Or the amount after selling the property. And can you make this an easy transaction for me? Right. If the seller is going to go through different, if they have million, if you have questions for the seller and you don't know the process and everything like that, they're not going to feel too confident. So you have to be confident. You have to tell them, hey, I'm going to make this smooth. Even if you're a brand new agent, you get a listing and you give us the address. This is why, as a brokerage, this is why we're here. We're here to support you and we take you to the closing, right? Even if it's your first listing, we can help you do that. So on their note should be, hey, I'm going to get you the maximum amount, and I'm going to make this a smooth transaction from start to finish. So, Mr. Seller, probably you bought this property 10, 20 years ago. I just want to just review the steps that we're going to go through, right, for the closing from start to finish. And the number one is that once you give me the listing, we're going to have a photographer take photos. We're going to market this. We're going to start doing the showings. We can do that through open houses, private showings. We can do this. I'll be presenting offers. We're going to be negotiating. We're going to go through a home inspection if the buyers requires it. We're going to go through the contract. We're going to do bank appraisal, and we're going to get cleared to close. And then we're going to be at the closing. So there's going to be 10 steps, and I'll be there every step of the way. Right? So you got to tell your seller that, hey, I'm going to be there every step of the way. You don't have to worry from step 1 to 10. All you got to do is just show up at the closing table. Okay? So when it comes to professional photography, right? Another agent probably can just take photos from their phone or from their iPhone just because they feel like they have the tool, but doesn't make them a professional photographer, right? So we will hire a photographer. We have few in-house that we can hire, and we will take clean, sharp photos for the property, right? So this way, they're high pixel photos. They stick out when they at the property. They're at good angles, and it will help us sell the property faster. Okay, and we pay that from our pocket. Oh, you're gonna, because you're the realtor, you're gonna be saying, hey, I'll pay that from my pocket, right? Worry about this. It might cost me $100, $150, but I will be doing that. Okay. So once we have that professional photographer come in, take a look at the property, take photos, usually they will have the photos ready within 24 hours. Once we have the photos, we will list your property on all the major platforms. We will list it on Zillow, we will list it on Trulia, on Redfin, Realtor.com, and all over MLS. The reason being is that we want your property to be seen by a lot of people. Again, we just need one buyer, but we need more eyeballs, right? Back in the days, you do want to mention this. Back in the days, there were a lot of agents just doing pocket listings, meaning you give me the listing, I will only share it with my office and try to get you a buyer. But that pool is very small. So, Mr. Seller, I'm going to put this on the market so everybody can see it. I'm representing you. I don't care if I get a direct buyer or not. This is for your benefit. More people that view the property, there's a good chance that we'll get more offers, and then you pick which offer that you want to go with. Okay, so it will be listed everywhere. Any questions so far, guys? All right. And we know that these days everybody's on social media, right? And we will promote your property until under contract on social media. It will be on Google, it will be on Facebook, it will be on Instagram. And I will be spending hundreds of dollars on my own pocket, from my own pocket, to promote your listing. This is what we call boost your listing. So I will put it a regular generic photos, right, for the property with your information and everything like that. But I will actually spend some money on it, right? So I'm financially invested in this property too. Even if we don't sell, I'm still spending on the photography and social media so we can get more eyeballs for your property. Okay. How do I get in contact with the seller? So this is the seller's presentation, right, Julian? So once you have a seller, right, there's different way of getting leads. You can get it from for sale by owners, properties, or if you're networking and someone tells you, hey, I want to sell my house. This is the presentation when you already have a potential seller, and they might be interviewing at least three to five different agents. So you might be one of them, and how you're going to stick out is by these bullet points that we're going over. Okay, and we'll talk about like getting the seller leads. We'll talk about that in the end as well. But this is, you're already gone to their property, you're presenting now. Yeah, you're welcome, Jimmy. All right. So after social media, we also have our own website, right? ljrealtyteam.net, and we have thousands of unique local users that are going to our website and browsing the properties, and we will feature that property on our homepage. Okay, so more people can view property. We will create flyers. Um, so our company LJ Realty Team also has LJ Mortgage Team. We also have LJ Insurance Agency, and we have pack and ship centers. So there's four of them in the neighborhood. So we create flyers and we promote them on these locations, again, so more people can look at the property, right? Next is the yard sign, right? We highly recommend it. It's not required. Again, the more eyeballs that you have there, more chance of getting offline buyers. These buyers might not be tech savvy, so they might not be on social media. So they not might be on Zillow or just in computer in general. And yard signs can go a long way, right? So the rule that I usually use for yard sale is if the person is already living there, let's say for 10 years or more, they don't feel comfortable putting a yard sign front of the house when they're still living there, right? They just say, "Hey, sell my property," without putting a yard sign. So I don't force them, but I do recommend it. It's like, hey, if we put it, there's a more chance of getting more buyers out there. If the property is vacant, you should tell them that, hey, I highly recommend that we put this because there's no reason not to put it. If you're not living there, why not put a for sale sign so we can get some calls right off the bat, right? So simple rule, if they're living there, they might say no. If it's vacant, you want to ask them to put the sign there. Yeah. Okay, Prince. Yeah, we're gonna go over that for the price. So this is the only presentation how we're gonna promote your property, right? We're gonna come to the price. So promoting wise, we're putting promoting on Zillow, we're promoting on social media, we're promoting on our website, we're promoting it as flyers, we're promoting it through yard sign, right? So that's the promotion. And when it comes to showings, right, we will do private showings, we will do open houses, right? We'll do well, virtual. We're doing it during COVID. They don't need it now, but it's private showings or open houses. And Mr. Seller, we work with your schedule. So if your schedule is, if you're only available on the weekends, I'll try my best to show you all the property only on the weekends. If you have Sunday as a church day and you don't want any, you only want to host an open house for 1 hour or 2 hours, whatever time works for you, we're gonna go through that, right? So it won't be just random calling saying, hey, you tell me your schedule and we're gonna go through that until we go under contract. Again, the more showings that we do, the more offers. There's a more chance of getting more offers for this property. Okay. And when it comes to offers, Mr. Seller, right? So let's say we get 5 offers. I care if it's low, if it's high. These are your offers. So my job is to represent you. So I'm gonna send you those offer sheets. Better yet, I'll print them out, I'll review it, and I will come to the house again, and I'll present you with these offers, and then we can negotiate. If the offer is for 600,000 and you want the 625, let's see what's the maximum we can go for that. So the negotiation part, I'll be the one who's communicating with the buyer's agent, but whatever I'm communicating, it has to come from you. You have to tell me, hey, I'm comfortable with this. Let's make that counter offer, and we'll go from there, right? But there will be no offers that is not seen by you, right? There are some agents out there, they will make their own decision. Hey, this offer is too low. This is too. No, it's got to come from you. You're the seller. You should see all the offers that are coming in, cash offers, non-cash offers, FHA, conventional. I will not be judging them. I will be presenting it to you, and then you be the one who's judging them. Okay, and then do a counter offer. And once you have accepted an offer, we're going to go through an inspection. There are many times where the buyer is really ready to go and they will waive this inspection, right? We will ask for that. So I'm representing you, Mr. Seller. So we want, the least amount of headaches. So we will try to see if we can get that inspection waived, right? If that's part of our negotiation. Depending on the from the buyer side, if they want to waive the inspection or not, we will see. But if the inspection does happen, I will be there at the inspection. I will point out the things that needed to be pointed out, and come back if they come up with these objections. I'll be the one that's handling it. You don't have to worry about it. Okay. So that's the home inspection. So, Mr. Seller, what do you want to do in this situation is like we already reviewed them and you already took down notes and you already said, hey, there's a leakage there, there was stain there, there's little cracks here. Let's do cosmetic upgrades. If we do small cosmetic upgrades, that will bring up the value. It'll be less reasons for the buyer's agent to negotiate down, right? When the property is fully renovated or does not have much things to be fixed, it's harder for them to say, hey, we want to negotiate this down because of that. Okay. So I'll be definitely handling that. And when it comes to the bank appraisal, right? For bank appraisal, again, they might be just like how they waived their spelled wrong, right? When just like how we said the inspection can be waived, the bank appraisal can be waived too. If the buyer is really ready, they love the property, and they're willing to put in 625 as the offer, but their bank says 600,000, there's a $25,000 gap. If we put that contingency for no appraisal contingency, the buyer has to worry about that, right? Our job is to ask for that. Hey, or is to the buyer's agent, is your client willing to waive appraisal contingency? If they are, great. We have no headaches. We can save a week as well because there's no appraisal done. But that will be my first approach with every offer that we get. Okay. And once that is done, the buyer and the buyer's agent and the buyer's loan officer, they'll be working together to give us clear to close. All we have to do is just make sure that the bank actually give clears to close in X amount of time. If the contract is for 45 days, we want to get all these things done before and have clear to close before that. I will be giving you weekly update, Mr. Seller, what's going on with the contract. Once we end the contract, I will keep you updated until we close. And once we do have clear to close, we're going to do a final walkthrough. Just like how the buyer saw the property initially, they're going to do it one more time before going to the closing and just making sure everything's functional. So, Mr. Seller, just take care of the property for those 45 days, just like how you have been doing it for last 10 years, right? Just make sure that there's no new things that come up, no new leakages, malfunction with this or that, with the bathroom, the kitchen. Just make sure everything is in working order. That's what we're looking for. As long as it's in working order, we should be good. And then, Mr. Seller, is going to be the closing. We all, the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, the attorneys, everybody will meet at the closing table, and you will be signing some documents, and the buyers will be signing documents, and that's it. We'll be at the closing. Okay. And the time from day one until the closing, from the contract to closing, we're looking at on average of 30 to 45 days. If anybody wants it longer, we will object to that and see if we can get lower. But that's the time frame, 30 to 45 days. We want to close your deal. Any questions so far, guys? All right, guys. So, Mr. Seller, that's what I will be doing to promote your property. This is the steps for the property, right? To sell the property. Maybe you're already aware of it, but those are the steps that we'll be doing. And now we're going to be doing comps, right? So this is when we said, and initially you already have the property address and you want to do the comps when you're going to the listing presentation. So this way that this property value is X amount. So how do we find that? We have different tools, right, for comps. You can do comps from geodata. This is what we show a screenshot here. There's RPR. You can get the value from there. You can actually look for active and sold properties on MLS. You guys are already paying for the service, so why not use it for the sellers as well? So, Mr. Seller, you want to sell this property in 11420 in this zip code. It's a single family, 40 by 100 lot size, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. similar properties in your neighborhood. Hey, there's one property up the block, there's one 5 blocks down, and it's listed for X amount of things. So this way they can visually see it, you know, the property. And you want to compare apples to apple. If if his property is 40 by 100, please do not give them comps for 20 by 100 lot size. Make sure that all the specs are the same, but you want to have at least 3 or 4 different sheets of the comps. One is just from geodata, that's the most simplest one. The second one is going to be RPR, and then have at least a few different listings for active, a few different listings that's sold, in the last phase. So they get the full picture. Hey, this is what's available in the market. This is what's been sold. This is what the geodata is saying. When you talk about geodata, you can mention that hey, the bank appraisals are using the same tools, right, to evaluate properties. So we're using the same tools to you. Hey, this is what they're gonna come up with. So we don't want to put it on the market for way low or way high. Okay. Whose question was that? Prince. Does that answer your question when it comes to printing? Yeah. Okay. So once you have that, and you're making, and you're gonna point that out, you like, hey, Mr. Seller, the listing price has two different strategies. Put it on the lower end, and you will have more people coming in and viewing the property, and we can act. It will be a bidding war. It will keep going up 5,000, 10,000, 20,000. This is when you put it on the lower end intentionally. You know the property is valued at 700,000, but you're putting it for 680, or 670. So that's one strategy. Or Mr. Seller, we can for 750, much higher, but now less people will be viewing it, and when they're comparing this property, but there's a lot of negotiation room. I know you want to sell it for around 7, we're listing for 750. Probably we want to we'll get a offer around 700,000 because you're already putting it over. Both of the strategies work. Initially, the seller want to go with the higher one. Hey, put it on the highest value first. You're going to tell them the benefit of putting it at the lower end. Tell them the listing price that we're putting in is just a starting point. It does not mean that that's what we're going to sell it for. Based on this, we'll get more people coming in. You get offers. We'll go back and forth, we negotiate, and get you the maximum price. Okay, both of the strategies work well, but these days, for past since about 4 or 5 years, we're seeing a lot more trend on the lower end, just instead of the high end, just because they want more people coming into their open houses, and more eyeballs for the property. And you don't want to, if the true value you like is 700,000, you don't want to put it for 550. No, you just want to be stay in the ballpark, but just a little bit less, right? So it looks appealing, and more people can come in. Okay. Any questions so far, guys? Oh yeah, Mohammed, go ahead. You had a question? I'm sorry. Hmm. No, no, they start off the same way. I mean, they do it. This is how appraisal will do it. They will use geodata. They will use other tools that they have, but they will. These are just generic. They're not doing actual comps, right? So this is just a starting date. The property, according to geodata, is this. But what makes it with appraisal is the actual sold properties, not active. They don't. I mean, like we said, the active does not mean that that's going to be the selling price. They actually look at the sold one. Hey, these are the sold properties. So when you give them the geodata value, RPR, and these, you are giving them the whole picture. The bank appraisal will take the sold one and the geodata one to evaluate, and obviously the condition of the property and stuff like that, right? All right. The seller, oh, one second. Alicia has does the geodata. Yeah, Alicia. So on the last meeting we discussed this. So geodata did change to Atom Data. Atom company is the one who bought geodata many months ago, but they just made the transition now. So anytime, same login though. If it takes you there, but it just look yeah, it looks a little different just with the color coding, but same logins, same features in there. Okay. All right, guys. So after doing the comps, so this way, no, they know what the value should be, right? They're the seller. They want to go with the highest one. Okay, fine, we can go. Or if you tell them enough, and they probably say, hey, let's list it for 699 or let's for 680 or whatever the case might be. Okay. Then you want to tell them, hey, Mr. Seller, even though we're selling the property, you're the seller, I'm representing you. We just want to see what's going to be the buyer's concern. So these are the same concerns that the buyer has when you actually bought this property too, whatever time, how long ago. It's the location, it's the property size, and the condition. And we said before, cosmetic upgrades can make a huge difference. So let's take care of those. You said, list your property at a competitive price so you can win in a bidding war. I'm the one who's going to be going back and forth negotiating, but just know that both strategies work well. And especially on the lower end, it works even better in this type of market. Okay. So, Mr. Sala, I already told you how I'm going to list the property. I already told you, the features, what I represent, and everything like that, my company. Now, I want to talk about how much you're going to actually take home. And we're just going to use two or three different scenarios, Mr. Seller. And I want to see when you're at the closing table, there's no surprises, right? There's a lot of agents, realtors out there. They will leave out one or two things, and then you are hit with a $10,000 bill on the closing table, and you had no idea about. So I don't like any surprises at the closing. I want you to give me more referrals after you move on. So in order to do this, our company created a seller's takeaway amount sheet. So I want to go over that, and I have different scenarios based on your needs. So as guys, we know that this sheet here, seller's listing breakdown, it's in dot loop and it's in our um, ljagent.com under forms, right? So let's go through this. So this is what you're asking the seller. Mr. Seller, let's just imagine that we list this property for $600,000 and we're going under contract for $600,000, right? What is your current loan balance, right? You have to stop and wait for the answer. And they will tell you, hey, I'm not too sure. And then you say, hey, do you have your old statement or most recent statements, right? It will tell you clearly, hey, this is the payment that you're doing and this is your current loan balance. Especially homeowners that's been owning a property for a long time, they know exactly how much their loan balance is. And let's say he tells you or she tells you that it's $250,000. Okay, tell them this number will change until the closing date. So you keep paying your mortgage just like how you're doing it, but when under contract and we have clear to close, your attorney is call up your bank and say, hey, we're closing on March 1st. Could you please give us the payoff amount? Right? So that payoff amount will be exactly what the bank will get paid at the closing table. So they're satisfied with their mortgage. Okay. So just give me a rough number. You say, hey, it's around 250. Great. I'll put 250. Okay, Mr. Seller, the next one is the transfer tax. This I want you to understand because there's no way of running away from this. This transfer tax, you have to pay this. The seller usually pays this, and it really depends on where your property is, the tax rate changes. So if we know that he's in Queens, that he's going to be paying 1.825%. If the same seller is in Long Island, is not part of the city, right? He's in Long Island, he's only paying zero point 0.4. So huge difference. Okay. I use the higher one just because we're in Queens, and if you get a Queens listing, you want to put in 1.8 or 1.825. So you take 600,000 minus 1.825%, you get almost 11,000. Excuse me, you get $11,000, right? 10,950. This, Mr. Seller, you cannot run away. So whatever the final price that you're going to be selling the property, you have to pay this percentage to New York City and New York State. And how is this 1.4, 1.8 broken down? Zero point 0.4 goes to the state and 1.4 goes to the city. Okay. Total NYC seller pays 1.8. Again, if it was just a Long Island seller, it would be only paying 0.4%. Okay, so that's the transfer tax you have to pay this. Now comes to our fees, right? So as a listing agent, I'll be representing you until the closing, and I need to get paid X amount of percentages. You can say, hey, 1%, 2%, 3%. Just know that you're competing with other realtors. So if you tell them, hey, I want to charge you 6%, and they interviewed three other agents, and all the other agents says, I'll charge you 4%, and you're asking for 6, all this thing that you have done all goes in trash. They're like, no, he's too greedy or she's too greedy, and they're asking for way too much, whereas other three or four realtors asking for only 4%. So different scenarios, just be reasonable. You don't want to be way on the lower end either. You don't want to say, hey, I'll just charge you 2%, I'll take one and I'll give one to the listing agent or to the buyer's agent. You don't want that either. Stay in the middle, right? Start off at around 4%, and 2% goes to you. This is the conversation with the seller. So, hey, Mr. Seller, so 2% will go to me. That's for representing you. And we will be giving 2% to the buyer's agent. Okay. And the buyer's agent will get paid 2% as well. And that'll be $12,000 each. Okay. Okay. What about, okay. Who's that for the core brokerage? Carl's? Yeah. So this way you would negotiate, right? You can have it on a sheet of paper, and have these terms that if I'm the one who's I'm listing it right on regular market, I'm putting on MLS, and there's another buyer's agent involved, he will get 2%, I'll get 2%. But if I'm the dual agent, right, I'll charge you 3% total. Okay. But Mr. Seller, if you can find a buyer on your own, it has nothing to do with me, right? I will only charge you 2%. So there's different scenarios you can do. It all depends on the individual that's selling it, how comfortable they are, and how much they're willing to do it. Just the co-brokerage side, as long as there's another agent involved, I need 4% total, two for me, two for the other agent, right? If the same property now is a two is over 1 million, they're not going to pay for two and two. That'll be $40,000, right? Anytime the property is more than $1 million, the negotiation is around 3%, one and a half to me, one and a half to the buyer's agent, right? If it's $1 million property, you ask for 6%, there's no way they're giving $60,000 in commission. Okay. And what was that? Based on your experience, what's the standard market right now? Just like I said, if it's a single family, around 600,000, I would go with about 4% total, two to me, two to the buyer's agent, right? And we had this deal done. I think Hassan did it recently, where they put in like three or four different scenarios. Hey, if I find the buyer, this happens. If you find the buyer, this happens. You, as a listing agent, will get paid at least 2%. On top of that, whatever you guys negotiate, right? Yeah, Julian, if you said 3% to this, again, it's fine, but if it's, again, the rule should be if the property is between 500 and $600,000, single family, start off at 4%, two to me, two to them. If the property is a two family and you're looking at close to $1 million or more, go around 3%, right? Some of the sellers out there, they will say, hey, I had another agent from, this brokerage, XYZ, and they're asking for only 2%. You know, again, they could be bluffing. It really depends on your negotiation. Anytime you're in that scenario and you're about to go to a listing presentation, contact me. Hey, we have this property. How should I structure this commission? And then we can, work that out together. But the standard should be for single family, start off at 4%. Okay. Any questions, guys? Julian? All right. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah. Okay. Sure. That's fine. So these are the fees that they're going to be paying. Mr. Seller, the next is going to be your attorney fees. There are some attorneys that charge as low as $800. There are some attorneys that charge $2,000. So I'm in on an average of $1,500. It'll be $100 up or down, but we see with our attorneys that we use, they charge about $1,400 or $1,500. So I'm putting $1,500 as expense. Okay, so you take $600,000 from here and you start subtracting everything else from here. So 600,000 minus 250 minus 11 minus 12 minus 12 minus 1,500. It should give you $313,000. So, Mr. Seller, you're going to be, when you're, the check that you're going to be getting from the attorney at the closing after paying off everybody is going to be $313,000. The next question should be, is that something that in the ballpark that you were thinking about? Because initially, if you're the owner and you own the property for X amount of time, you already have an idea how much equity I have in the property. They probably missed out on the transfer tax, which you're pointing out, or the attorney fees, right? Or the loan amount, or not having the full amount there. But there should be no surprises at the closing. Okay. Again, if as a realtor you missed out transfer tax, hit with $11,000 at the closing, they'll be upset. Hey, you never disclosed this to me. You know. So always tell them this. So this is pick number one. You're going with three different sheets with three different scenarios, right? So pick number one is going to be your 600,000 with these numbers. Your pick number two is going to be $25,000 higher. Okay, so this one was 600,000. The second option is going to be 625. Again, the loan balance is not going to change. The transfer tax will change because it went up higher, $25,000, and the difference is going to be around $1,000. So the last one we saw was 10,150. This not even. This one is $11,406. Right? Our fees, they went from 12,000 to 12,500 each. So you're paying about $1,000 more in the brokerage fees if you're doing 625. Attorney fees will not change. And if you take 625 minus everything else we have as expenses, you're left with 337. So pick number one, you are taking home 313. Pick number two, you're taking 337. There's a $23,000 difference when we're listing it for $25,000 higher, right? And then you want to do another example of 650, right? So you have 600,000, 625, and 650. You don't have to put $25,000 intervals. You can, really depend on your situation. Probably do 580, 600, 620, but always go with three different picks because this is what was going to get you the listing. Because you have done everything else, you already showed them all the plus points that's going to get you the listing, how you're going to get them to the closing. You already did the comps for them, right? You're telling them all the goods and the bads about the property to do the cosmetics and everything changes, and you're going over the takeaway amount, right? Next job should be for them to pick one. They're going to either tell you, hey, usually the middle one. They say, hey, I like this one. I had many deals with listings where the husband says, hey, I will go with pick number one, and the wife goes with pick number three. I love that because they're not into anything else now. They're just thinking about what should the listing price should be. Okay. And this is one of the most important thing part of your presentation when you're taking it with you. Okay. Any questions on this, guys? Yeah, Prince. Yeah, that's exactly that. What I mean, yeah, the seller feels like the property will sell itself. I don't need a listing agent. I can probably save 24,000 or $25,000 on commission, right? But look how much headaches that the listing. If you see a for sale sign and you see a number there, you should always call that. and you say, "Hey, I'm with LJ Realty team. I see that you have a property. I just want to know the specs. How many bedrooms is it? How many bathroom is it? What are you asking for?" And then as a realtor, "Hey, I have buyers, but I just want to come take a look at the property. Can I?" When you're going viewing the property, this is again, he's the one who's showing you that, right? How many times he's going to do that? Every time he has a buyer or a potential buyer, he has to go through showing, negotiating, going back and forth, so many headaches, right? And still probably not get the maximum price because you're doing the comps, you're doing this, you're negotiating. They would want a realtor that can help them get the maximum amount. That's what they care about, and making sure there's a smooth transaction, right? So anytime you do see those signs, call them up and be confident that you can make a difference for them. Okay. Any questions so far, guys? Yep. I would do it beforehand because you just don't know the loan amount, right? So, yeah, usually, I mean, you can put the scenarios where you put the loan amount. I mean, if you have no idea, I'll just do half. So let's just say you're listing it for, or you see the comps is for 600,000. Put the loan amount 300,000 just for the sake of putting it there. And when you're talking to them, you probably might be in the ballpark, or they will tell you, "Hey, no, it's not 300,000, it's 450." Then you put 450 there. But having this pre-filled does, so you don't want to do three different sheets there. No, just do those beforehand. Yeah. You, okay. So after that, guys, once they say, "Hey, I love pick number two," 625 is it. The husband and wife, both of them agree. Hey, 625, that's what we're gonna list it for, right? It's not we going under contract for this. We have the price to list it at now. So how do we get the listing? Right? So under forms here, even on your dot loop, all we need is these two forms. The third one, you already did three scenarios of seller's takeaway breakdown. We need exclusive right to sell, and we need agency disclosure. As long as these two are signed by both husband and wife, or if it's just a seller, one seller, you have the exclusive right to sell. And in that exclusive right, which we already went over, has the date when it's going to expire. That's the most important date. How long do you have to, as an exclusive right to sell for that property, right? You can't be forever. They probably tell you these days, aggressive sellers will say, "Hey, I'll give you 3 months listing." You know, 3 months is too short. And you might say, "Hey, no, I need a year listing," and they might think a year listing, that's too much for me, right? So where should be the middle? I think 6 months is right in the middle. Asking for 6 months is, you're going to tell them, "Hey, after I put the property in the market, my goal is to go under contract within the next 30 to 45 days. And from there, once we're under contract, another 30 to 45 days for the closing. So I need at least 6 months listing where we can get you the property sold at the right price and there's no rush. If you want it in 3 months, I don't know how many eyeballs I can get in 3 months and what kind of offers we'll get in 3 months, but 6 months listing is the right amount of time." So you're going to print these out. When you're printing them out, you want to print out two copies, right? Because when they're signing it, you're not going to, um, photocopies of those there, right? So you or take photos of it. Just take two copies, print it out. So this way they sign both of them. One of them they'll keep. One of them you will keep. Right? Taking two folders. The reason we said you were taking two folders. One is for yourself and one is for them to keep. Okay. Once they have, you can put it on the listing. If it's your first listing that you're doing, you can always contact me, have a schedule a meeting with me here, so we can put the first listing online together, and moving on, you can do it by yourself, right? So you tell them, "Hey, let's get property sold fast. You tell me if you have any questions, concerns, and I want to thank you for your time." These couple of things, but you put it in your own notion. And this is it, guys. And this should take about 30 to 45 minutes max when you're from, knocking on the door until you're leaving from there, about 30 to 45 minutes. You don't want to stay there all day, have lunch with them or anything. You just want to get out in 30 to 45 minutes. Questions, concerns, guys. This is super important. Please ask your questions. Open. They will go open listing. Open listing would be they won't give you exclusive right now, so you cannot put it on the market. If he gives you an open listing, he's telling other agents the same thing. He's maybe telling five different agents, "Hey, I'll give you 2%, but it's an open listing. If you find me the buyer and it's your buyer, you're about to go into contract, I'll give you 2%." But in this situation, you want exclusive right because you're giving them all the selling points. You're making it, it'd be no headaches for them. You're doing all the research for them. You're negotiating for them. Tell them all you have to do from the day you give me the listing is just tell me the times that you want to do the showings. I'll be doing everything. I'll take you to the closing table. You just got to show up at the closing table, right? Of course. And this is a presentation. And they're, let's just say they're interviewing five agents. They're only going with one. Four of them are getting rejected, right? So we want you to be the one who's winning this, exclusive right just because of what you're offering. Again, if you're asking for a ridiculous amount of commission, and you have everything else checked off that you're going to be promoting it, you're doing this and that, but you're asking for 6%, everybody else is asking for less, they're going to think that you're too greedy and they're going to judge you based on that and just not go with you. Or they just might feel like, if it's, let's just say everybody else is asking for three and you're asking for four, it's just a percentage higher. They might say, hey, they have a lot to offer and she's going to be doing a lot of promotions online. So let me give her this much, but you just got to be reasonable. Yep. What else, guys? Questions, concerns? You guys feel any little bit confident of, actually, if you guys have a seller now, let's just say a seller calls you, say, hey, I have a property and, I want to sell it. You guys know how to talk to them, how to sell. Perfect, perfect. Well, this is how you get the listing, but how do you actually get how you find the sellers out there, right? That is one of the toughest thing. Just like how we have, how we get Zillow leads, we get like 10 leads, only one of them are good. Same thing for the sellers. Sellers are just like how we have the inventory is so limited, right? Same thing. The sellers are so limited, and when they want to work with someone, they want to work with someone that knows what they're doing. You can get sellers leads, right? You can purchase them, you can get for sale by owners through VEDX or Mojo Dialer. But those are just like, they're not super solid. But at the same time, that's the only way to get those seller leads from online. Otherwise, it's just through networking, just having your name out there. Usually the seller, let's say you're doing postcards and you're doing postcards to this zip code and you're doing it every month, and you're consistent with it. And when the time comes to sell, they probably give you a call because they saw your advertising more than anybody else, you know? So finding sellers is one of the toughest thing. If it was easy, everybody would be doing, presentation and meeting with the sellers. But through networking, through advertisement, getting your name out there is the only way to get those sellers, right? Any other questions, concerns, guys?